All right, welcome to this self-transformation webinar. If you'll just give me a minute, I just want to share this webinar with my Facebook group. All right, welcome to this self-transformation webinar. If you Okay, we're live. So welcome to this webinar. Today we're going to talk about self-transformation and why it is so important for you to transform yourself so that you can become a new it matters in today's AI environment, because AI cannot help you unless you change to a new person who is able and willing to adopt and leverage AI. So we're going to talk also about case studies, how people have been able to transform themselves. We're going to talk about various self-development books and authors that I recommend. We're going to talk just briefly, because it's not about me, but it's about you. But I'm going to share my journey briefly with you. So let's get started. So what is self-transformation, and how is it different from, let's say, self-improvement? Self-transformation is different because it's really a radical shift to a new identity. And as you might probably know, identity is destiny. So when you change your identity, you're going to be able to change your destiny. In contrast, self-improvement is when you're changing a habit, you're changing, a small thing, relatively, a new habit, or you're becoming aware of a bias that you have, and it's still good. I'm not saying that self-improvement is bad, but you're tweaking things here and there, you're changing a habit here and there. It's not going to have a major impact on your life, on your, let's say, your marriage or your dating or your social life or your career or your business or your finances. So it's really a question of magnitude. So let me just put it here. Self-transformation, so let's call it ST, is different from self-improvement, SI. Okay, so self-improvement is really incremental. Like usually it's incremental. It's a percentage, like 10% or maybe like even 30% improvement, which is good in Japanese corporations. They call it Kaizen, and so they keep improving the work processes, and they keep improving, and that's how Japanese companies in the 1980s, they were able to surpass American car manufacturers. So I have nothing against self-improvement, which is good because it can actually compound, right? All the improvements that you're making to your life, all the little habits, all the little tweaks, they can add up very quickly. And one of them or several of them might suddenly turn out to give you a disproportionate reward or return. So you just never know. Like sometimes you make a small step, but somehow it turns out to actually be a big step in disguise. And so a small step can actually result in a big impact. But in this webinar, I'm going to, like, in a way, grab the bull by the horns, right? I just want to forget about incremental improvement and just go straight to self-transformation. So what is self-transformation exactly? So like I said, it's a radical shift to a new identity, because identity is destiny. And why is it important? So actually, before we talk about the why, I'm just gonna draw a diagram. Hold on, let's just give me a minute. I'm just gonna save this. Whoops, what's happening? Just gonna save this document, and then we'll proceed with the self-transformation webinar. As usual, I'm going to draw a diagram to really show you the importance of self-transformation. And you're going to see right away, it's going to be very obvious that this is like job number one, because artificial intelligence is transforming the economy and the workplace and the world of business and finance and everything. And so because artificial intelligence is transforming radically, drastically the economy, society, you have to transform in a similar manner. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to catch up. So let's say that this is the economy before ChatGPT came along. And this is the size of the economy. And let's say this is the size of your thinking. This is your identity. And then ChatGPT came along in December 2022, and suddenly the new economy is like this big. Actually, you know what? It's actually bigger. Because keep in mind that $1 billion is being invested into AI companies and research every single day. 1 billion. And so the economy is getting so much bigger. Like even that is not enough. Let me just draw. So the new economy is that big. We don't see yet the extent to which it is big, and that's why the second circle here is incomplete. It goes outside of the boundaries of this page. So it's almost like infinite. It grows exponentially. Meanwhile, this is your identity, the size of your thinking before ChatGPT came along. And so even now that AI is here, it's been here for like, more than 2 years. Most people, the size of the thinking remains the same. And therefore, the benefit that they're going to get from AI is not going to be that much. So what I'm submitting in this webinar is that you've got to increase the size of your thinking to match the increased size, the increased space of opportunities that AI has been unleashing in the economy. Okay, so it means that you've got to grow your thinking, grow your identity to match the enlarged size of the economy. So this is the economy, this is where money is. So imagine that the economy was worth a certain amount of money, but today with AI, the possibilities, economic and financial possibilities are so great, but you're not going to be able to access these opportunities, all this money, if your thinking is not growing in a similar manner. So that's the reason why self-transformation is so important. Another word, I guess, maybe that's more accurate for self-transformation. It could be, I don't know, self-expansion or maybe self-enlargement, but whatever it is, it's not going to be self-improvement, because self-improvement, like we said before, it's just like, 10% or 30% improvement. But when we talk about self-transformation or ST, we're talking about 10x. So it's not about correcting a little bias that you have here and there, although that is important. It's not about, increasing or getting a return of 10%, 20%, or 30%. It's really about 10xing the size of your thinking, 10xing your goals, 10xing your speed. You have to be 10 times faster. You have to think bigger. So you have to be bigger, you have to be faster, you have to be 10 times more aggressive. You really have to change your personality, because your personality is flexible, it's malleable. People might think that, they were born with a certain personality and they're stuck with it, but that's totally false. You're not a tree. You can change your personality. So in today's webinar, I'm going to share with you a framework that I learned from Anthony Robbins from his book, Awaken the Giant Within. But as usual, when I learn something like a framework like the one I'm going to share with you, I apply it to death. I apply it to everything. And, actually I can give. I was about to say I can give a webinar on the framework, but I'm actually giving a webinar on that framework. So without further ado, let's talk about what the framework is, because I covered the why already, why you should transform yourself. But now let's talk about how you can transform yourself, and the how comes from Tony Robbins. I think that by now everybody knows Tony Robbins. He's a phenomenal coach and author, and he owns like 12 companies, and together he generates like $450 million in revenue per year. So this guy like is a major guru, okay? And the framework that I'm going to share with you today comes from his book, Awaken the Giant Within. It's a phenomenal book. And it's very long, but it's very easy to read. But you don't have to read it because I'm going to summarize for you the framework that I learned from Tony Robbins, and I use the acronym. He doesn't use this acronym. It's something that I created. It's bricks. So it's similar to bricks. Like when you want to build a house, you have to lay down one brick after another. And if we have time, I'm going to talk about another self-transformation framework that is more action-oriented. It's more like a procedure called OLIAC. So this is more like the actual procedure. So it's not even a process. It's a procedure. It's very precise. So bricks is more like a framework. It allows you to understand your personality, your physical personality. So think of your personality as a character in a movie. You're not stuck with that character, right? So think about your favorite actors, and you can imagine them in different movies, and sometimes the good actors can transform themselves like from one movie to the next. Of course, everybody knows Al Pacino. He can play a Cuban drug dealer in Scarface, and then he can play the big boss of an Italian family, mafia family in The Godfather. So these are two very different roles. And so the personality that you have today, it's just a character in a movie. You're not stuck, being that person, but you have to be aware that it's a character. You're an actor and you're playing a role. So whatever role you're currently playing, you could be a student, you could be someone who is struggling financially, you could be a single guy looking for a date or a spouse, you could be a woman who's 45 and she has regrets about her life. Those are just roles that you're playing. You can play a different role, and some people have begun talking about quantum transformation. You can shift to a different identity, but that's maybe a little bit too hard for people to believe, so I'm just going to leave that aside for now. So the personality that you have today will attract a certain set of circumstances, and that's why they say identity is destiny. So what you want to do is you want to change your identity, or at the very least, like I showed here, you want to expand your identity so that it matches the size of the economy, which has now been expanded by AI. So how do you actually do that? Well, you use the framework, like I said here. So let me just expand on the framework, the BRICS framework. So B stands for beliefs. I'm gonna get into more details later on. I'm just gonna go over the 5 pillars. R stands for references. So these are events in your past that are memorable. So they made a deep impression on your mind, and you tend to view them as references, right? Everything that happens to you, you automatically and subconsciously, you go back to those references, to those events. And you might believe that these references are the standards, right? But they're not. It's just that they happened in your life and they were very emotional, very dramatic, and you tend to believe that they're true, but they're just events. You can create new events. You can create new memories. Same thing with beliefs here. You might think that what you believe is true, but that's because you haven't experienced more of life. Most people think that their life journey, what their life journey taught them, is the absolute truth. No, but it's just beliefs. It's just a journey among many other journeys, right? The fact that you have certain beliefs doesn't mean that they are necessarily true or that they will serve you going forward. Okay, so the next one is important values. So you have to be aware of the values that are driving your decisions, and we'll talk later on about how you can change those values if you have a new goal, because if you keep the same values, you're going to get the same life. So values, again, is like beliefs and references. You can change them. That's the whole idea of this framework. This is a framework for change. Okay. The fourth one is questions that you typically ask yourself, whether it's conscious or unconscious. But I think that typically people don't ask themselves too many questions. They just absorb whatever comes to them. Whatever events are shown to them on YouTube, on their Facebook timeline, they just accept reality. They don't ask questions, but it's important to ask questions, because when you ask questions that are relevant to you, to your goals, then you can go out there and you can search for information that is important and that is knowable. But when you don't develop this capacity to ask questions, then you're not searching for information. You're just absorbing the information that comes to you through the news media, through Facebook, through YouTube, through your friends. And so you're not getting the information that is going to help you to succeed, to achieve your goal. And it's what investors, especially Warren Buffett, it's what they call information that is important. In other words, that is germane, that is relevant to your goals, and information that is knowable. So for example, if I want to get rich with the stock market, sure, I should have insider information about tech companies, but that insider information is not knowable, and it's not even legal, right? So you have to seek for information that is important and knowable. Okay, so the last one is about states. You have to be able to identify the energy state in which you are, and also be able, so ID, and also be able to raise your energy. So, if I talk like this, and you can feel that my energy is probably 2 out of 10, I have to be able to increase it to 3, and then to 4, to 5, to 6, to 7, to 8, 9, and then 10. I have to be able to spontaneously increase my energy state at will, on command. And that's a very important thing to do if you want to, control your life. A lot of times people say something like, follow your passion, and that's true. But it's even better if you can summon your passion, summon your energy. So it doesn't matter what you do, there's always a way to do it and a way to summon your energy so that you get excited about it. So that is what we're talking about here. We're talking about self-control. So anyways, these 4 things, and actually these 5 things, your beliefs, references, your values, the questions you ask yourself, and the states in which you are, these are 5 things that you can change. So this is a framework for change. And without this framework, it would be very difficult for you to change yourself, because you would be following a certain pattern, certain habits that you do every day unconsciously. So those patterns are part of a script, and you follow that script, and every day you're just looping through the same old, same behavior, and you keep doing the same thing day in, day out. And that's not good. So you have to identify the script, and the way to identify the script is really to get under your skin, so to speak, and examine your beliefs, references, values, the questions that you ask yourself, and your state. So we're going to get into detail regarding these 5. But I just want to mention for now that these 5, I don't know if pillars is a good word, but these 5 factors or variables, okay, you can change these 5 variables. But now that you know them, you're already ahead of 95% of the population, because what's happening is that, let's say, people's personality is like an iceberg. And when you look at your friends, your family, and when they look at you, they can see what's above the waterline, but they don't see what's under the waterline. So when I talk about the bricks here, your beliefs, references, your values, your questions, and your states, they are underneath the water. You don't see them. But now you have an advantage because you actually dive deep into the water and you can actually fix your personality. You can change your personality by using these 5 levers. Yeah, levers is probably a better word than variables. So bricks is about the levers that you can change in your personality. Just want to give you another analogy so that you can fully appreciate these 5 levers. Whoops. Let me just erase this. So these 5 levers are a little bit like the source code of any software program that you're using. Now, if you've never done programming, you might not appreciate as much, but I think it's not hard. Think about DNA, your DNA that you got from your parents through the genes that they've passed on to you. Your DNA will determine, features of your face, your height, the color of your hair, color of your eyes, even I think your intelligence. So DNA is the information inside of your genes. So in the same way, any software program will have a source code, and the source code will dictate the behavior of the software. So in the same manner, bricks is really the hidden variables inside of your personality, and they dictate your behavior. So if you want to change your behavior, if you want to become more motivated, if you want to make more money, if you want to become more attractive to members of the opposite sex, if you want to have a better social life, if you want to do better in your career, in your studies, in your business, in your finances, basically it's about behavior, right? So if you want to change your behavior so that you can get better results in life, and of course everybody wants better results in life, then you've got to go underneath the waterline, the iceberg, or you have to access your source code. So this is the source code that I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about like changing a habit or just changing your nutrition, which is fine, but that's superficial. You want to change the underlying source code. And in the same way that if you change the source code of any piece of software, the software will behave differently. There is no doubt about that. This is very deterministic. So in the same way, if you can gain control of these 5 levers and you actually change them, then you will have a new behavior. You will shift to a new universe because everything around you is going to change. Your identity, like we said before, determines your destiny. When you change your identity, you will change your behavior and you will get better results. Okay, so let's take a look at these 5 levers for change, for personal transformation. And it's very simple. It's really not complicated, and that's the genius of Anthony Robbins. Like, he spent like years doing research on psychology, and he discovered those 5 levers, and we're going to apply them right now. So let's talk about beliefs. So what do you believe about money? What do you believe about work? What do you believe about society, about the economy, about the political system? Some people believe, for example, like more and more people believe that capitalism is bad, and we should somehow shift to socialism. That's one belief, right? Some people believe that, wealth, hold on. Too much wealth is not good, or they believe that capitalism, by its own nature, by the way that it's set up, capitalism is bad. It is exploitative. Other people believe that don't promote yourself. Let your work speak for itself. Don't promote yourself. Like, be modest. So these are beliefs. They're not true, but people believe that this is the truth, and therefore they behave like as if that is true. And so when you identify your current beliefs, then you can change them so that you can adopt new beliefs that will serve you. Now, of course, always honor your belief because they got you to where you are today. But the fact that your beliefs got you to where you are today doesn't mean necessarily that going forward they're going to serve you. Okay? So, for example, I was working in the corporate world till June 2000, but it served me very well. In the 1990s, I worked for big companies like IBM, American Express, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Immigration. I worked for about 12 different large organizations and government departments. But starting in June 2000, I quit corporate Canada. I changed my belief system and I became a serial entrepreneur. So you can change your belief, and therefore it's going to change your life. So this was a radical change for me because I changed my belief, and therefore I adopted new behaviors. And so to be more practical, you want to identify the beliefs that you have about money, because after all, this Facebook group is called how to make money with AI. So AI is opening up a new opportunity, so you have to really be clear, what do you believe about money? Do you believe that more money is good or bad or neutral, neither good or bad? What do you believe about money? Do you believe that I have enough money, or do you believe that I could use more money? Those are just beliefs, but you have to be aware of the beliefs that you have. If you're the kind of person who believes I have enough money, I don't need any more money, I don't need to generate additional income, that's a self-limiting belief, because there is no limit to how much money you can make. Like the central banks in countries all over the world, in the United States, it's the Federal Reserve, they keep printing money all the time. So there's always more money being printed, right? So when you have the belief, I have enough money, or life is good, I'm okay, well, you're robbing yourself, because remember, here there's so much more money and business opportunities being unleashed by AI. But if you believe that, oh, I'm good, I have enough money, I don't need more money, I'm sorry, but you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not going to make more money because you believe that you have enough money. So if you want to make more money, like, I don't care whether you are a millionaire right now, whether you have 2 million or 5 million or 10 million, it doesn't matter. If you believe that you have enough money, then you will never attract opportunities to make more money, because your belief is stopping you. So you have to be aware of your beliefs, right? You have to believe that I could use more money, or you have to believe something like more money is good. More money is good. It's great to have more money. Never put a ceiling on how much money you can make. Never put a ceiling on your income. This is from Harv Eker, and he wrote the ultimate book on how to identify your beliefs about money. So his book is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. It's absolutely a book that you have to read, because guys, trust me, I studied at McGill University 3 years. I paid $17,000, and for 3 years none of my management professors ever taught me what Harv Eker taught me in a single book. And I think you can watch him on YouTube for free. That's also good. Actually, it might be better because you can actually hear his voice. But Secrets of the Millionaire Mind is going to help you to change your belief about money and a bunch of other related beliefs. For example, some people believe that self-promotion. So let me just give you choices. Self-promotion is good or bad. You decide. What do you believe? More money is good or bad. You decide. But you have to be honest with yourself. If you believe that you have enough money, you have to acknowledge that this is really your belief. And so if you have that belief, you're never going to make more money, or it's going to be very difficult for you to make money, because the money is going to flow to you, but you're going to raise your hand and you're going to tell the money, no, 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 no thanks, I'm good, I don't need more money. I can give you an opportunity to make like a lot of money through my affiliate marketing program, my reseller program, but you're going to stop me. You're going to say, no, no, Peter, I'm good, no thanks. I want to enjoy my life. I don't want stress. I have enough money. Thank you. Don't be like that. Like, I know I'm being a little bit forceful, but so many people have this belief that, like, here's a belief regarding money that so many people have. Like, maybe they're not even aware that they have this belief. Money doesn't buy happiness. That's totally untrue. I mean, if you've ever been on a cruise vacation like I did with my mom, or you've ever traveled, I went to Vietnam in 2014. I spent 3 weeks there in the middle of winter in Canada. The best 3 weeks I ever spent, bar none. But to travel to Vietnam, travel to Paris, France, to travel to Miami in the United States, to California, I went all over the place. It cost money. We live on an economic planet. No matter where you go, which country you go to, they're going to ask you for money. Nobody's going to do anything for you for free. So money does buy happiness, a certain kind of happiness. I was very happy during those 2 weeks on a cruise vacation. I was super happy in the Bahamas. That's totally untrue. Money doesn't buy happiness. That's totally untrue. Money doesn't buy friendship, maybe. Money doesn't buy loyalty, maybe. But money does buy happiness. And in fact, you know what? Studies have shown that the number one reason why marriages fail is because of financial problems. So maybe money cannot guarantee that your marriage is going to be successful, but the lack of money or financial stress will definitely make your marriage fail, even if you love each other. I mean, this is statistically proven. So you have to be careful and examine honestly the beliefs that you have, about money. Like, money doesn't buy happiness. More money is good or bad. Some people also have something, it's not exactly a self-limiting belief, but when you ask them, how do you define wealth? And they will say something like, oh, wealth is family, wealth is friends, wealth is love. No, you have to clearly define the terms. Wealth in a financial setting, in a financial context, simply means your net worth. And that means, your assets, the value of your assets minus your liabilities, your credit card debt, your car debt, etc. So you have to define the terms properly. People say wealth is the sun, the grass. Wealth is abundance. Life is abundance. Life is energy. No, you're not defining the terms. You're mixing things, And so you have to be very clear about what you believe, because your beliefs will restrict your growth, will restrict the income, the revenue that you're going to make. So there's a well-known story about how circuses, how they train elephants to be obedient. So when they have a baby elephant, they would attach that baby elephant to a pole, like to a small pole. And so the baby elephant cannot go anywhere because its foot is attached to a pole. And then when the baby elephant grows up to become an adult elephant, it still doesn't walk away from the pole, even though it can easily walk away from the pole and it could tear down the entire tent. But it doesn't do so because ever since it was a kid, that baby elephant has been trained to believe that it cannot be stronger than the pole. Even though later on, a few years later, it becomes an adult elephant that is very powerful, it can rip apart that pole, it still doesn't do it. And so that's what you have to consider, when you're growing up, and you adopt those beliefs from your parents, who may be well-meaning, but your parents don't know about finance if they're not rich. So your parents might have told you that, money is bad, too much money is not good. don't be greedy. Okay, don't be greedy. Like be satisfied where you are. Like think about all the kids in Africa who are starving. I don't see the relevance. Like why would you compare yourself to kids in Africa who are starving? No, you live in a developed country. I live in Canada, but you might live in the United States or France or Germany or any European nation. Don't be satisfied. But if you have the belief that you have to be satisfied where you are, you have to be content, you have to become some kind of a Buddhist and not have desires, well, then you're shooting yourself in the foot, because AI is unlocking and unleashing so many opportunities, but because of your Buddhist beliefs, because of your because of your self-limiting beliefs about money, and you're not gonna make a lot of progress financially. Some people even believe that rich people are crooked. I don't know about you, but I know several multimillionaires, and they're very kind people. In fact, I find that they are kinder than people who are not rich. So the belief that rich people are crooked, or rich people try to evade tax laws, and they try to create shell corporations in Panama, or they try to evade to fiscal havens in Switzerland, or etc. They're not good. So if you believe that rich people are not good, then obviously you will not try to become rich, because you don't want to become crooked. And so all of these beliefs are explored in depth by Harv Eker in his book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And trust me, when I came across his book in 2008, because I was dating a very beautiful girl, she invited me to a conference given by not Harv Eker himself, but by his lead trainer, Robert Riopel. I learned so much from that 3-hour conference. I took so many notes. And I took so many notes because in 1999, when I graduated from McGill, I had not learned any of the principles that Harv was teaching in his book. So think about that for a minute. Let's think about that for a minute. I paid $17,000. Okay, let's put down the numbers. I paid $17,000 in tuition fees to McGill University. It's a complete scam. Okay, and this is the famous Faculty of Management, and they didn't teach me what Harv Eker taught me, and his book is only $30. Let that sink in for a minute, and that will tell you the extent to which society is not serving your financial interests. It's not even serving your health interests, by the way, but we're not going to get into that. Society, even a higher learning institution like McGill. McGill is known as the Harvard of Canada. And we'll talk about the Faculty of Management. This is the faculty that generates the most revenues at McGill, right? And I paid them like close to $20,000. I had to quit my daytime job, so I lost $80,000 because I had to go full-time for 2 years, and I was making $40,000 per year. So I lost $80,000 because I had to leave my daytime job. And so in a way, it's like I was spending like $100,000, and they didn't teach me what Harv Eker taught me for $30. Think about that. And that shows you the extent to which society has been maybe not lying to you, but they've been transferring to you and to your parents and your teachers. They've been transferring to you beliefs that are not serving you. And the one book that's going to help you to change your beliefs is Harv Eker's book. There's no book out there that is even close to Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Okay. And by the way, did you notice that when you look at the word belief, let me just blow it up so that you can clearly see. Isn't it fascinating that at the center of the word belief you have lie? It means that a belief is not the truth. It's just something that you believe to be true so that you can have a certain experience. Okay, you believe it to be true, but it's just a belief. It's not like a law of physics. And by the way, that's why I think that's one of the key reasons why Elon Musk is so successful. He's not operating on what most people believe. He is operating based on the laws of physics. Okay, the laws of physics are the laws of physics. You cannot cheat the laws of physics. It's reality. It's objective reality. But a belief is just something that is true in your mind, and you think that because it's true in your mind, you think that it's true in the world. But no, it's just true in your mind. It's not true in the world. And so that's why, like, Elon Musk will do a lot of things, and in his mind he knows the laws of physics, something like, 2, or the laws of mathematics, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. He knows that with absolute certainty. It's not a belief, it's absolute knowingness, right? And then he could have like 1 billion people who would tell him that no, Elon, 2 plus 2 is equal to 5, and he's probably laughing, because whether 1 billion people say that the sum is 5 or 5 billion people say that the sum is 5, Elon is not going to change his mind. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. That's it, man. So you have to try to acquire knowledge that is objective, physics, mathematics, the hardcore sciences, not social sciences, not psychology, not humanities, but really hardcore. You have to become like a scientist or an engineer in order to build your wealth. So anyways, I'm going to close that chapter, that section on beliefs. I think you get the point. You have to understand and identify what are your current beliefs and how can you change them so that you can become a new person. Remember, the BRICS framework is about changing yourself to become a new person. So let me just put it here so that we're very clear about the purpose of the BRICS. So this is the current you. If you go through the BRICS, and we just covered the B, so I'm gonna cover the rest. You go through the BRICS, you understand how you can use these 5 levers to change yourself. Okay, so you implement the BRICS, and then you become the new you. And because you're a new person, you will attract and you will create new circumstances, because you will have new habits. You probably will have new friends, new allies. You will have new tools. You're gonna read new books. You're not gonna waste time on YouTube and Facebook anymore. New knowledge. Everything's gonna be new because you're a new person. You are abandoning the current you. The current you is just too small. This is the current you, very small over here. You want to become the new you, which is much bigger. And the only way to do that is to change through the BRICS framework. All right, let's take a look at the second element, which is references over here. So, like most people, you've had a childhood. It could have been good or bad. Like most people, you've had relationships with men and women. You've had friends. You've had teachers. And so all these people and all the events in your life, maybe an illness, maybe something happened. Like in my case, I dropped out of university when I was 21, I believe. So things happen in your life. But just because something happened doesn't mean that they define you. Okay? It's possible, I hope it was not your case, but it's possible that maybe your girlfriend or your boyfriend cheated on you. But the fact that they cheated on you is a reflection of who they are. It's not a reflection of who you are. And it's not necessarily a reflection or an indication that you were not a good boyfriend or a good girlfriend. So you have to revisit those events and redefine them in a way that is positive. Sometimes it helps when you talk to friends or you talk to a psychotherapist, it helps. But just remember, I'm just going to give you a shortcut here because I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm not a psychotherapist. But anything bad that happened in your life, you can convert that bad event into something good. And in fact, it happens naturally. In retrospect, people will often say that, that bad thing that happened to me, actually, it turned out to be good. And to give you an actual personal example, when I was in Dawson College, I fell in love with this girl, like totally head over heel. And somehow after, I think, 1.5 years, it didn't work out. And I was really depressed. I was depressed, but I didn't know I was depressed. I don't know if that's normal, but I was depressed. So my grades starting to fall precipitously. And so I went from a GPA of like, maybe 94% to something like 89%, which is still good, but it's not good to enter the Faculty of Medicine. So when I applied to the Faculty of Medicine of McGill, I was refused. And so at the time, that was pretty bad. I wanted to go into medicine. I don't know why, maybe because I have Asian parents. I don't know. But it didn't work out. So I ended up studying biology. I have no idea why I went into biology. Maybe I was hoping that after I got a bachelor in biology, I would reapply to the Faculty of Medicine. But, biology was so boring. I was not excited. And even though I was a very good student, after 2 years, I was basically flunking all my courses. So 2 years of repeated failures. But fortunately, in my case, I have a super self-confidence, super self-esteem. It didn't bother me that I was flunking. So after 2 years, I just dropped out of school. But when I look back, the fact that that first love didn't work out, it's actually good. So the way that I put it, because I wouldn't have been happy as a doctor, definitely not. Okay, I'm much better as an entrepreneur. So the way that I really find that event, which normally would be very sad, very depressing, is that I would say that my girlfriend at the time, what is it? Oh yeah, she ruined my medical career, but she saved my life. She saved my life in the sense that because that happened, because it didn't work out, and my grades fell, I was not able to get into medicine. And so she saved my life, because if I had gotten into medicine, I don't think I would have been happy, because, when you get into the Faculty of Medicine, you're stuck there for 4 or 5 years or more. And then 2 years as an intern, etc., or a resident doctor, etc. So I wouldn't have been happy. So in a way, she ruined my medical career, but she saved my life. So this is just one example. When you look back at the apparently bad events in your life, it turns out to be a good thing. Like sometimes I have friends who say, like, I was diagnosed with diabetes, etc., but that medical diagnosis triggered something in me, and I began to eat more carefully. I began to exercise, and now I'm in better shape than ever. So sometimes, like, you can have an illness, but it turns out that it's a blessing in disguise. So be careful when you remember what happened to you in the past. Always change them into something positive. Now there's another way. The other way is to create new references. And these new references that you create will serve as anchors, and they will bolster, they will strengthen your belief, your self-confidence, etc. And so, for example, if you want to succeed in business, obviously you have to sell, right? So you have to sell, and you have to remember the one time where you were able to close a big deal. And so keep that in mind, like keep reliving that positive event so that you strengthen your confidence. In this case, your confidence as a salesperson. So for example, in $2,000 for me was a key reference. Okay, so I've been talking for 50 minutes. Okay, so those are references, and like I said, the values are very much like beliefs. You think that your values are set in stone, but they're not. I think most people are not aware of the values that they have. Sometimes they're aware, like, people who have kids, obviously they value something like being conservative. Like they don't like new ideas, they just want to keep doing things the way that they've always done them, right? Don't change anything. So they don't want creativity. Some people want change. They want to change all the time. They want variety. Other people don't value change. They value continuity. They value like being frugal. They value simplicity. So you have to be aware of what you value. Now, in the context of this Facebook group where it's about making money with AI, you have to value money. You have to value wealth. If when you talk to it's like, I don't know, it's like people, it's like women, it's like men. If you don't value women, well, guess what? Women will not stick around. If you don't value money, money is not going to stick around. Okay, let me put it down. If you don't value women, women will not stick around. They will not. So you have to tell yourself, I value money, I value savings, I value financial knowledge. I'm willing to read books on finance because I value money. People who don't read books on finance or savings or budgeting, they don't value money. They can tell you they value money, but if it doesn't show in their behavior, then they don't value money. Okay, it's very important. When we talk about value here, it's always expressed in your behavior. So somebody can say, oh, I value adventure, but if you look at that person and they have a job and their job is a government job, it's very secure, well, guess what? They value security. They don't value adventure. They might value adventure over the weekend, but 5 days a week they value security, and that's why they have a job. And that's another point. If you want to go into business, you have to start valuing adventure over security. Someone who values security will never go into business because business is very risky. There's nothing secure about launching a business. And so you can see here, I'm not gonna dwell too much on this, but you have to be clear, what is it that you value and is it aligned with your goal? So for example, this is just one example, but if you want to get rich, you have to start valuing money. But like I said, money should not be above family. That's my belief. Value family first and then value money. But money can definitely be valued over friendship, because oftentimes, your friends, and this is just me telling the truth, most of your friends are competing against you. This is especially true for guys. They're not really your friends. Like in my case, I have like just a couple of friends who really care about my success. All the other friends are just competing against me. And so sometimes, not always, but sometimes you have to put money above friendship, in the sense that you want to focus on building your business. You don't want to go out too much with your friends. Okay, like some people who value friendship over money, they will just spend a lot of time with their friends and they will not learn how to make money because they value friendship over money. So it's up to you. For some people, money is important, but it's not more important than friendship, which is fine. But what I'm saying is that if you want to get rich, money has to be somewhere at the top of your list of values. Okay, so here we can have another value like entertainment. You really value your Netflix account, which is fine. I watch movies online too. You value entertainment. You might value arts. You might have a hobby. But if you want to get rich, money has to be somewhere near the top. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I think that's enough about values. Let's talk about the questions that you should ask yourself if you want to change your personality, if you want to become a better person. Oops, sorry. Okay, so like I said before, most people are not asking themselves questions. And so you have to start asking yourself questions. And to give an example, Ray Dalio, one person I admire very much, very successful, very wise. He's the founder of Bridgewater Associates. I think it's the biggest hedge fund in the world. He said that one question that he keeps asking himself, and this is based on a big lesson that he learned, which cost him a lot of money, is how do I know that I am right? So this is a guy who's very successful, and yet he's always questioning himself. How do I know that I'm right? How do I know that I have the right information? How do I know that I'm not wrong? So he's always questioning himself, and that's why he's made so many good decisions, and not just in finance, but he's a very wise person whose advice is sought by statesmen all over the world, like people who are in charge of governments. And so ask yourself, what are the questions that you're typically asking yourself? For some people, it's Okay, I'm just kidding, but a lot of people are asking themselves questions that are not really important, questions that are not going to move the needle. It's not going to really help you to achieve your goal. Okay, or questions like, what should I wear tonight, or where am I gonna go for my next vacation? And those are important questions, but you wanna ask questions that really will force you to search for information within you or on the internet. It's gonna force you to search for information that is important to know and that is knowable. So, a question like, for example, if your goal, and the question of course depends on the goal, if your goal is to get a spouse, or maybe let's not go too far, let's say your goal is to get a date, just meet like men or women of the opposite sex, you should ask yourself questions like, where can I go to meet people? Or you can ask a better question like, I'm passionate about cooking. Where do foodies go? And is there, so you ask yourself these questions, and then you go out, you look for information that is important, in other words, that is relevant to your goals, and information that can be discovered. So the questions you ask are very important. Like in my case, for example, I don't have to work for a living, so that's good, but I'm not yet at the point where I have achieved that 20K passive income. On the other hand, if I ask my questions like, where should I... Now, this tends to be easy. It's not a big deal. You have to identify your energy. You have to be able to know when during the day do you have high energy and when do you have low energy. It's something you generate. So it doesn't matter what you think your energy level is right now. You can always generate more energy. And there are different ways, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it depends on each person. Some people feel, what kind of people do you have high energy? Okay, so in a nutshell, that's what I wanted to teach you today, how to use this framework for self-transformation. And, as you go through these 5 levers for change and you tweak them, AI developments. And so I hope that through this webinar, I've given you food for thought, but also actual tools that you can use, like, the bricks here, actual tools that you can use to change your personality, because now you can see under the hood, so to speak. Yeah, this was like 20 years ago. So I've been using this framework like for 2 decades, and it really works. It allowed me to shift into a different person, like almost like instantaneously. I became a teacher, I became a serial entrepreneur, I became a programmer.